Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Zoom meeting number 45 with Sean Halloran from Barnstone Art for Kids in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So before we get into talking with Sean, as always, we start with practice to bring ourselves to a place where we can listen, take things in, and consider. So if you'd like, and if you're in a place where it makes sense, you could close your eyes. If you're driving, please don't. And so you could just begin to notice your body in the place where you put it. Feel where you're touching down. Feel maybe how gravity is holding you in place, which means there's not a lot of work you need to do to be where you are. Just seeing how much you might be able to give yourself to gravity. Just allow yourself to be held. And as you're allowing, you might allow what you're hearing. So we're going to spend the next time together talking a lot about what we see. And so maybe if we just back off on the seeing a little bit and think and connect with what we hear, we'll get a little more balance and maybe even make seeing a little more fresh. So just noticing what just comes to you. We don't have earlids like we have eyelids. So whatever sound there is keeps coming. So just noticing that. Just letting sounds come and go. Letting the body come to rest, held by gravity. Just taking these few moments to settle in. And now, if you'd like, if your eyes have been closed, you could think about opening. You don't have to snap them open. You just think about it and let your eyes open when you're ready. Take things in around you. And so we are recorded today, so we don't have the audience to ask, but I would like to ask our guest, Sean, to maybe let us in on what his experience of this practice was like.
It was, thank you, first off, Don, because it was needed, I think, as we kind of came together here. My own sort of, my body and my thoughts were a little anxious, and I could feel it sort of, like I was holding that in my shoulders and in my upper body. And when you kind of gave us permission to let gravity do the work, that felt really, it was a nice release. And um, I think a part of me wanted to kind of foreshorten, right? Because I'm thinking, well, we're going to have this conversation. So, but again, you gave us the opportunity to just relax and be in the moment. So it was really, really much needed, and very grateful to you for that.
Oh, all right. Well, I will say that I needed it too. I really I like to settle in before I have a conversation that's important, and I think this is an important conversation that we're going to have. And so, I just want to set things up for a second here, which is to say that, we're coming to art for kids from the perspective of learning life skills together. So, at Learning Life Skills Together, we have 4 skills that we're refreshing in the parents and carers, and then hoping that they will not only model those skills but share them with the kids.
Mm.
And we particularly are asking parents and carers to share the skills within contexts that are also good for kids' mental health. And so making art and experiencing art and beauty are really, we have tons of scientific evidence that
Yeah.
this is valuable for our mental health, right? And so I just want to call that piece out and just refresh in everybody's mind what the 4 skills are. And so the 4 skills are: first, paying attention, which is what we just did. We paid attention to the experience of our bodies sitting here and the sounds coming around us. That was very, very simple. And it's the attention that made the difference that you and I were talking about, right? So paying attention is kind of our central theme, our central practice. And the other ones come from it and sort of flow out of it. So the next one, once I notice what's going on with me, how do I work with that? So emotion regulation being the next piece. I can feel what's going on inside me. I can locate it. Now, can I work with it? Yeah, you can. There's lots of ways, and you can take the online course to figure that out and to refresh yourself on the many many ways there are to do that. Then the next one is what we call technically distress tolerance, which I think of as getting through those moments that we wish weren't there, but are, and may take a while to go away. So this is really tough. This is the work for everyone. This is, parents, carers have just as much trouble sometimes working through this as the kids do. And so really that modeling and that sharing the strategies that you found work for you, really, really important. And then finally, effectively communicating with other people and with the people that matter. So, I'm going to go right into what we're talking about here and saying art is one way of effectively communicating what's
Oh,
going
yeah.
on with us. Absolutely. And when you start to stack up these 4 skills and say, okay, I've noticed what's going on with me. I'm trying to work with it. I'm trying to get through it. Mom, dad, you know, father, I need help,
Yeah.
you know, and here's what would be good for me. Here's what I think might help. To get to that point, it takes a lot of learning, a lot of understanding, and some trust as well. And so doing things together, like looking at art, making art is one way into that whole space.
Absolutely.
So, so Sean, I'm just going to say to you, What is it that Barnstone Art for Kids does? Talk to us about the story.
Hmm. So thank you for that opportunity. And I would say that the story is a really interesting and I think inspired story. But I think just to start off, the four elements that you just described are woven into every child's experience at Barnstone, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm really happy to say that it was sort of baked in even at the inception of the organization, which goes back over a decade to when Lynn Detweiler, our founder, ran the organization. Um, and really, that was um, in response to recognizing that children really do benefit from, engaging creatively in art making, in feeling the support of the community and feeling the support of their caregivers and neighbors. Um, and, it was at that time that Lynn decided to really um, specifically address children that are at risk and have histories that include adversity or trauma, um, and the use of art as the vehicle that she was going to help them communicate with, right? And the idea of bringing volunteer mentors into that strategy, that kind of organizational idea was also really important to kind of helping the kids with that third element that you were talking about, kind of that distress tolerance, right? As we're learning something new, as we're kind of learning a language, there's moments where, yeah, I get really upset or get frustrated with the task that we're doing. But having, folks there who are able to support us and let us know that, even though this is, seemingly really a difficult moment and you're experiencing some discomfort, you're doing really well, and so that support winds up being the very thing that helps kids kind of work and be successful in that distress tolerance area. So in terms of, I guess, going all the way back to
Yeah.
the organization, I'm kind of all over it.
Roll it back. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So it is. It's really exciting to be talking with you because there is so much area of sort of overlap here. Um, and I was mentioning Lynn started the organization over 10 years ago, and it really has been something I think so simple, but something really impactful, and that has been this idea that when we're getting together with kids that have experienced adversity, um, we know that there are some tools that are going to work, and it is about helping them to communicate around, the difficult things that they've experienced, but also to kind of learn those life skills, right? The skills of resilience, which is what you're doing as well, and so the experience over the whole span of the lifetime of the organization, every child is kind of taught and we value and prioritize that emotional regulation. So one of the things that every child, every time we come into a group, we're going to ask, "How are you feeling today?" Right? And we're taking from the sanctuary model, which helps us understand that that's a great way of kind of not only getting the temperature of the group, but understanding maybe who needs a little bit of extra support. So we're going right into that emotional regulation and helping our kids understand how they're feeling, and then understanding how that can play out in the group with kids that are saying that they're upset or whatever. We're working on with them to use the tools that they've identified to kind of help them through those moments. But yeah, so the children that are coming here, we're valuing and getting right to this idea of being able to work with our emotions. And then we're introducing the artwork and all of the amazing potential that comes from a whole year of art making. And the kids that we're working with, of course, are from elementary age all the way up through high school. We actually have kids that are driving themselves to program. So that's kind of interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, and so of course our projects and our sessions are designed to be developmentally appropriate. So we have groups of young people who are coming in, and that experience for them starts in September and is going to last all the way out until June. We're going to get them together for 90 minutes a week and pair them with a one-to-one adult mentor from the community who's had sort of at least a trauma 101 and Barnstone 101 orientation. But when we're all coming together and for that year-long program, our kids are being offered projects, art projects, and learning, techniques, art making techniques that are going into their toolkit and are really, really, I think, emphasizing the therapeutic nature of art making, really emphasizing the process over the product, right? That's
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
here. A big motto of ours is art just is, and basically what that means is that when we're creating in those moments that our body is and our brain has found flow, and where we have found sort of a sense of this is where my creativity wants to take me. That is where we're really placing our emphasis and saying this is really some place where some great work can be done. And
Yeah.
right next to that child who's in that flow state, who's making this really cool art piece, is an adult cheerleader, a mentor who is not just
Mhm.
familiar with the child, but has developed a relationship over the time that they've been together. So
Yeah.
that all is to say that Barnstone's work really does pull for a lot of the same material that you're describing, and it's super impactful.
Yeah, I wonder if you could say a little more about that relationship part of it, because as I'm looking at it and thinking about it, there is a real potential for kids, particularly after like, I don't know, 6 or 7, to say, I can't do that.
Oh yeah.
That's not me. I'm not an artist, because they've heard that somewhere or other, sadly, sadly.
Unfortunately, yeah, those
But
messages.
so it's like, how do, it seems like you're really working on overcoming that, you
Mhm.
know?
We do, and we're fortunate in that some kids and a lot of kids, have not started to fully believe those messages, right? That
Mm,
this is a pastime, or this is a hobby, or this is not a serious, endeavor.
right, right.
And so, yeah, working around the kids that are working with kids that have really, I'm not an artist, I'm not any good at this. That can be an initial hurdle, but something that, again, we're not emphasizing that I'm not looking for a show at the Modern Museum of Art. We're looking for somebody to experience art as something
Yeah,
enjoyable, as something where they've been able to put something of themselves into that creation, and just even if it's an hour of quiet time, or an hour of quiet conversation with their mentor, that is a really positive outcome and something that we're shooting for. But yeah, that that initial resistance at the outset of our programs, and we're just finished September when we had our start, and we started all of these new groups, and and so many of our kids were new faces, new to this
Yeah.
class and so forth. So I can say after the first 4 weeks of sessions that yeah, kids are coming around, and they start to,
Yeah.
this is actually, nobody's looking over me and and negatively appraising my work. Everybody here seems to really kind of think I'm pretty good at this. So
Yeah.
there is a sense again of shoulders coming down, and okay, I can relax in here, right?
Yeah.
And that's about really, that's about setting the culture and setting the environment. It's
Yeah.
so important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking of it in terms of, parents and carers
Yeah,
and what they can do to sort of help these things along.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm hearing that the not judging anything, not putting the emphasis on what is the outcome of this making, but
right, right.
ooh, how does that feel to put that paint down like that?
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
find, yeah, the one of the most important questions after someone has completed a project really is, did you have fun doing that? Was that fun for you to make that? And
Mm,
if they've said yes, or if they've said, well, it wasn't fun, but it was really challenging, and that it's the process that we're interested in. So yeah,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is it is neat.
I'm hoping that our parents and carers are listening on that one.
I think so here at Barnstone, we're following that up too with some conversations with parents. We have these unique opportunities, albeit, just a few minutes at the very outset of our session and at the very end of our session. Um, we have the opportunity to touch base with parents and talk with them a little bit about how their individual child's progress is coming along. Of course, we're not, this is not an outpatient setting, right? We're
Right.
a community organization, so we are talking about how kids are getting on with their peers, how very frequently we're lucky to be able to introduce the child's mentor to that carer, to that parent, and there you see the sharing of thoughts and impressions, and you see the beginnings of relationships too between that caregiving, the home entity and those caregivers and the mentors, that frequently will extend beyond the life cycle of one of our programs. And so
Mm,
we see
yeah.
mentors and families really connecting for more meaningfully outside of the groups as well. So that's a really nice thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Cool.
so yes, it is to say that our caregivers get brought in to some processing a little bit before and after, and then I find, despite the fact that we're not that psychiatry office, or that formal mental health setting, I still find as an art therapist and psychologist and a clinician, find myself doing a fair amount of consultation, and we've created an environment where families feel very comfortable just giving us a call and presenting if they've got questions
Mm.
about services, or if they have questions about something that's happening with their child.
Yeah, yeah. So you sort of extend beyond that
Very
just
much.
art into, yeah, what else can we do? How else can we help?
We do,
Yeah.
yeah, and in fact, I'd say, yeah, the art piece, we always lead, and it's a big part of, it's a huge part of what we deliver. But I think that, yeah, the fact that my own professional life has really been in that setting, the children's mental health setting, for the last almost 3 decades. Um, I like to think I remember a couple of things about case management and where to find resources and so forth. So
Right. Yeah.
that
There you go.
we wind up doing a fair amount of that, and that's a really helpful extender for parents as well, right? We wind up being
Yeah.
a useful resource for families, kind of a little bit of a bridging the gap between the mental health center or the school and home. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I am interested in nitty-gritty things. I'm an extremely concrete person. And so I sort of feel like okay, our parents from Learning Life Skills Together are listening, and maybe they want to be involved in doing some artwork with their kids or suggesting things to their kids. And so what kinds of projects do you sort of offer to the uh, children who come?
There's yes, thank you for that question. And there's a couple of ways to answer, but I heard two things that I want to respond to. One is what are the sorts of projects that we're doing around here? One of the things that really do hold near and dear is this idea is that art is accessible. It is not something that I have to go to an expensive art store and get wildly expensive paints and things like that. We can make art with the things that we can find
Yeah.
in our own home. So when I'm thinking about constructing an art project for one of our classes, I'm thinking how much of this can I use recycled materials or materials that are going to be able to be used, again, by a child that in their own home. And that really frees us up because then all of a sudden, most kids will have some leftover cardboard at home or some leftover egg cartons at home. Most kids can put their hands on, some of the materials that they might need. So from that perspective, you know, art is always approachable and always we can set up our kids with a range of materials that they'd be able to have a meaningful creative
Mm,
experience with, right? With our very youngest, and we do a fair amount of work out in the community through our on the go programs with preschool aged kids as well. And I'm telling you, you put out a couple of small pots of paint and some egg cartons and a leftover Amazon box and a little white glue, and you're good. You don't really need to
mm,
find a whole lot more than that. And one of the things that we would talk about is this idea of process process art rather than a product related art. So we're putting materials out for the kids thoughtfully,
mhm.
materials that they're going to be able to manipulate, and we're thinking about that in terms of developmental stages as well.
Right.
But once that material is out there, our work is done. We can sit back and literally, encourage the child, but what they do with those materials and how they choose to, employ them in their
Yeah.
project is up to them. Again, it does. It goes back to that whole art just is mantra that we.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there might not even be a prompt. I mean, it might not be, why don't you see what if you can do X? It's
Yeah,
it's more like here's some cool stuff.
yeah.
I wonder what might come. I wonder what you
It's a
might make
great,
out of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it can be. We've had lots of opportunity to just put that stuff out there and kind of see what happens. There is also the opportunity to provide challenges and stuff because ultimately, yeah, our kids are going to respond if there's something, if there's a way to make it cooler, if there's a way to make it
Right.
more fun.
Yeah.
And that can be by creating a project or a prompt that's kind of speaks to maybe one of the ideas that we're trying to address, right?
Yeah.
So, the idea of um, uh, balance, for example, we can put materials out and say, let's create a mobile today. We're going to create something along the lines of an Alexander Calder mobile, right? Uh,
Right.
and we're going to put that material out, and that's going to be all that we really give them. And the material that they use, they're going to use some glue, and their mentor is going to help. But in the end, they're going to have this, hanging sculpture, and we get to talk with the child about what not only what balance means in terms of their artwork, but what it means
Right.
in terms of their life as well, handling things like friends and school and family that would
Yeah.
those kinds of things
Yeah.
as well come up for them.
So just because I am so concrete,
But
would you have shown the kids some photos or video
there's
or
time,
something
yes, yeah. So for like
of a mobile?
yeah. So for like a Calder project, absolutely. If we're so here at Barnstone, what we're going to do is we're going to build the use the materials and build the project, really the idea of a project around a concept that we're trying to reinforce, whether that's
Right.
balance or some other element of self-care or what have you. Um, and to the extent that it's necessary, we're going to provide some orientation, whether that if we're using a specific artist, which we do from time to time, we'll provide some examples. But ultimately, more times than not, what winds up being the most fun are those moments where kids see the materials and they kind of are going to interact with them however they want. And again, I'll say, as somebody who goes in on a regular basis with children and art materials, I'll come in with, this is my idea and this is what the projects are, may look like, and kids will 100% of the time have a, take it in a completely new direction. And I'll
Right.
go, wow, I didn't really think we were going to do that. But all of a sudden, there it is. So
Yeah.
there's moments where it's helpful to provide a little bit of structure to those projects, and then there's other times where we're and I think for your carers and the folks watching, I think that there's pardon me, there's even more reason to just make the materials available, right? Put them in a place where kids are going to have ready access to them. And it might be helpful to provide a little bit of tutorial around, especially if we've got a very, very young person who's just learning how to use scissors. We would want to
Right.
support them in learning how to use
Yeah.
those correctly. But beyond that, having that stuff where the child can kind of move toward those materials on their own, or hey, do you want to build something with me? Gosh, that's such a great question, and I would always say yes to that question. So
Mm. Yeah,
having
I think that's really important for people to hear is
mm,
that the parents can sort of get it started, get
mm,
it going. Yeah, would you like to let's do this together. Let's do, yeah, learning
absolutely,
life skills together is our name. So,
absolutely, and
yeah, yeah,
with our youngest kids too, that is, I mean, we are really assisting in the developing brain architecture there, right? I mean, when a child is saying help me with this and we're engaged with them, that is a monumental opportunity for
yeah.
parents. We can get in there, not run the show, right, but make it
Yes, exactly.
curious. I think that is the word. That is my big
Yeah,
takeaway that I would like.
yeah,
If we can orient ourselves toward curiosity and toward being curious about our child's
yeah,
intentions and their artwork and what their thoughts are, I think that we cannot lose.
yeah, yeah. What if? What
Yeah,
if? Yeah, what would
exactly.
this look like? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Our kids want to tell us. They want to show us,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, they want
it's
to find
really
out themselves.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It
Yeah.
winds up being a really um, oh gosh, just such a surprising moment, when the child goes, "Wow, I did that," and the adult, "Yeah, you did," and that's just, it's really wonderful, and we get to see that so much here at Barnstone. Just really quickly, we were talking about sort of animals and all of these different kids were creating 3D sculptures of spirit
Mm.
animals and so forth. And this
Wow.
one young person had this idea, and we're close to Halloween and had Halloween on the brain. So his animal wound up being a skeleton, and he fashioned a skeleton of this fish. Um, but it was so interesting, and it was because of its proximity to Halloween that the fish was a skeleton. But
Yeah, sure.
just left to his own, this young person just did this incredible job, flipped the project on its ear a little bit. And in those moments, I've just been, art just is, when the child takes over, that is the best moment. And
Mm.
I just love, I love being along for the ride when that happens, and I'm sure your caregivers and parents have said.
Yeah,
Well, we've been in those moments are great to be
absolutely.
there. Mm.
So speaking of the parents and caregivers, how can they get involved? Um, how can they bring some of these opportunities to their kids?
So a few
And,
ways.
particularly just maybe through Barnstone.
Absolutely. So I
Yeah.
would definitely recommend everybody check out our website, barnstoneartforkids.org. It's all one word and spelled out phonetically, pretty easy. The reality there is that it does have links for our program enrollment, and we enroll a couple of times a year for our signature programs. Our Power of Art and Emerging Voices Power of Art is for elementary aged kids, and then Emerging Voices for our middle school and high school aged kids. Um, so those programs enroll twice a year, and our next enrollment will be for a program starting in January. So
Mm.
barnstoneartforkids.org is a great place to learn about those. You'll also see a number of um, uh, you know our on-the-go opportunities. So if families are in the immediate, kind of Chester County, Phoenixville area, we do have some stuff going on here in town that parents might be involved with or be interested in. And then from there we do link with a couple of other places, and I would say in terms of the opportunities for art making, we have the Chester County Art Association, and there's some really wonderful friends here in town that are putting out their um, businesses for art making with children. But ultimately, again, I think in terms of learning about process art, in terms of learning about the therapeutic value of art, you want to learn about that. Like take out, keep some of your recycled materials and put it in front of your young person, and see what happens, and
Mm.
get a tutorial on it. I guarantee you, because kids will they'll start making stuff. They'll want to learn more and do more. So
Now, how might I get a tutorial? Just if I just heard this,
I would say in terms of working with kids, depending on how old we're talking about. Again, I would say, our website is a really good resource for some of that. And then there are other folks out there. There's a really, really wonderful duo on Instagram and on the internet called the Creativity Project. And that is two art therapists who are really talking a lot about preschoolers and
mm,
use of process art. And I say, well, I don't have a preschooler, I have a middle schooler. The principles are there. The principles are the same. That we are saying that having a ready access to art making materials is really important and a priority. So once
yeah,
we have those things in front of our kids or within proximity, and just making them available to those kids, and then the I guess the additional material in terms of what am I doing while we're there? My child is making art, or I've got the materials. Now, what do I do? It is about just kind of engaging and being curious, as well as helping our child to understand what it is they're exploring, right? And a little bit about their materials, and helping them to see their process through.
yeah. So that's kind of a long way around of saying that it's really probably very simple and cheap.
It's
Pull this off.
Yes, extraordinarily simple and cheap. And yeah, and which is really bad for me as a professional who's saying, like, come to
Right.
our programs. Well, the good news is that all of Barnstone's programs are free anyway. So there's
Mm,
that. But yeah, in terms of the impact, we can have just a great deal of impact, for very little, outlaying of resources. I think that having a simple range of some markers or colored pencils or crayons at home, with some glue and paper, that's a really great start. And then from there, gosh, just about anything else in terms of recycled materials will work out well. And we do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I noticed that you guys did a project with lids to
Oh,
things, plastic
we
lid.
love lids. We love so yeah. So we made actually it's a great and I think you will see that on our website. But yeah, we created a large scale. I think it's about 6 foot by about 4 by 6 foot sign, all made with bottle caps, plastic bottle caps, recycled. And it says, unsurprisingly, art just is. And so that hangs in our main program room as a reminder for
Hmm.
us. It hangs sort of above us all. And it was put together by our kids with the collection of bottle caps done by our mentors and the wonderful friends that we have over at SEI, who's a corporate partner of ours here. And yeah, it is thousands of those cups.
Yeah. No,
And it
I
was,
was just taken with that idea of, so here we are, we're the little family, we're doing artwork, and let's just start saving our lids
yeah,
and see what happens. We'll revisit it at Christmas or something and see what we've got. And
yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
You can do, yeah, and there's amazing things that you can do with the recycled paper bags and
Mm,
recycled plastic that goes out. There's so much really good stuff. And again, Barnstone is one resource. There are so many resources out there, in places like Instagram, for example. And again, my recommendation there is parents are, able to go on that. Young kids with social media, I always, a little cautious about, but parents are certainly able to go on and learn a little bit more about process art and about recycled art. There's lots and lots of resources out there.
all right. Well, we got some good stuff out there for our folks here.
Oh yeah,
And I want to thank you for doing that, for talking with me. And I have, you might not see it as a challenge, you might see it as easy, but I always ask our guest for some words of wisdom, or if you're really, really succinct, a watchword that you would give us to sort of going forward, thinking about this engagement with art.
for your carers, I'm going to go back to my word, curiosity, right? It is
Yeah.
such an important thing. Curiosity doesn't judge. Curiosity is quiet and is a really um, helpful thing to have next to you. Curiosity asks some really
Yeah.
good little interesting questions that might actually serve to push the project forward. So I would say
Yeah.
curiosity is my watchword, or my key.
I, I love that. And one of the things that I continually experiment with is, one, the modeling of parents for the kids in being curious in that way. And second, I have this idea that it's really, really hard to be anxious or stressed out or whatever we want to call it when we're being curious.
Mm, exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly right.
That's just how our brain works. If we're curious,
Yeah,
we're
we're
yeah,
tending to something else.
we're
We're
yeah,
curious about
yeah,
something else, aren't we? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
what an excellent point.
All right. Again, simple. And
Exactly.
yeah. So thank you so much, Sean. This was great. It was a great introduction. I hope people will go to the website of Barnstone Art for
BarnstoneArtForKids.org.
Kids. Dot
Yes.
org. Yes, and we will post that, and Sean, frankly, I will post anything you want to give me to the show notes here for the
Thank
for
you.
our talk today.
Okay.
And I thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Dr.
All
McDonald.
right.
Really appreciate you putting us out there Yeah, I appreciate all that you've already put out there. You're a wonderful resource, and I'm so grateful that you took some time with me today. Thank you.
Thanks.